Hello and good morning to our beloved lecturer, Dr. Mahbuni, and my fellow classmates. My name is Nurhuda binti Mustafa and I'm going to present regarding the crime cases in Malaysia. Did you know that Malaysia is one of the countries with highest number of crime rate in entire Southeast Asia? In 2016, Malaysia has recorded 61% of Malaysian fear crime. Compared to previous year, it is 80%. Crime can be divided into two. First is property crime and second one is violent crime. Property crime is such as house break-in, snatch and vehicle theft, while for violent crime is such as murder, assault, rape and armed robbery. I'm going to discuss for the first chart is from Kyoto Review. This chart shows a national crime index per 100,000 of populations in year 2010 to 2017. But I'm going to highlight only for the years of 2015 to 2017 only. From this graph, it shows that number of index and property crime shows a general decline from the years of 2015 to 2017. It's might due to underreporting cases that cause the actual number of incidents cannot be figured out. Moreover, from this graph, it shows that property crime tend to be higher compared to violent crime. It might have correlations with the economical situation in Malaysia. Crime are associated with economic downturns and crime generally tend to rise during recession and when economy is not performing well. I'm going to discuss for the second chart. It's from Department of Statistics Malaysia. This chart shows the crime index for 100,000 of population by state in Malaysia in years 2015 to 2017. From this graph, it shows that Malaysia have decreasing of overall number of crime index from 370.5 in years 2015 and decreased to 309.7 in 2017. Moreover, from this graph, it shows that Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur has recorded the highest number of crime index rate compared to other states, while Sabah is the lowest. Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur has recorded the highest number of crime index rate due to its high population of density. Rural-urban migrations that occur due to high population growth has led to problems such as massive unemployment, inequality, exploitation, poverty, deprivations, and frustration. People will act aggressively, and this situation will lead to problems such as, criminal activities, which it is a major socio-economic problem facing by most of developing countries such as Malaysia. Other than that, Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur also has been listed as one of high-risk locations for crime cases, according to Annual Crime and Safety Report. I can conclude that both charts have shown a significant changes over the year for the number of crime index rate at different states in Malaysia. As the number of crime cases might increase due to high population growth and economical situation in Malaysia, people should always be aware to avoid any harm from occur. As my recommendation, we as Malaysians are responsible to prevent crime cases from occur. It is important for public to look after themselves and others and always stay vigilant. Regularly engage with NGOs can be practiced directly involving public and police to spreading the awareness on crime preventions. That's all from me. Thank you.
Very good morning to Dr. Mahbui and to all my friends. I am Nur Sabrina binti Shaharul. So for today, I'll be talking about domestic violence amid COVID-19. As we all know, the world was astounded by a sudden global outbreak of COVID-19, which was eventually resolved to lockdowns around the globe. While some people get to spend the lockdowns making dalgona coffee, TikTok videos, or even trying out a new recipe, it's not always fun and games for everyone. Lockdown can instantly be locked up for domestic violence victims. This pandemic has created an enormous pressure cooker for the victims, as they cannot escape from what happens to them behind the closed doors. Before I get even deeper into this topic, I would love to briefly explain about what domestic violence really is, just in case some of you don't really know what it is about. So domestic violence refers to patterns and actions of aggressive and abusive behavior committed by one spouse or partner against the other within an intimate relationship for the purpose of gaining power and control. The type of abuse can take many forms beyond being physical abuse. It can also be psychological, emotional, sexual, or economic abuse. The lockdowns and movement restriction orders for containing the pandemic of COVID-19 have resulted in a global rise of domestic violence. I really think this topic is worth paying attention to in a way to help the victims and survivors of domestic violence from their perpetrators in order for us to create a safer world for everyone. Okay, the first graph that I included is a graph that shows the pattern of domestic violence amid COVID-19 in some countries from the continent of Africa. As you can see from the graph, the majority of the graph lines indicate a spike in the number of people being the victims of domestic violence in Africa since the COVID-19 outbreak. This is due to the mandatory isolation, restricted movement, and stay-at-home measures to contain the spread of the infection that have a particularly acute impact on the victims. The chances of victims being exposed to violence is dramatically increased as family members spend more time in close contact and household stress intensifies. And the risk grows even greater when families also have to cope with potential economic or job losses. The second graph conveys the number of domestic violence-related articles. An increasing trend can be observed after the first lockdown measures were implemented in Europe. This trend indicates that the issue of domestic violence has become even more prominent due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And COVID-19 has increased the severity of domestic abuse, thus explaining the rise in the COVID-19 related articles. Providing shelters to accommodate the victims and survivors can be a struggle given the need for social distancing and sanitization in the duration of the lockdown. While recognizing that this measure is essential, it also accentuates the reality that there are not enough shelters available for those who need it. The feasibility of state government buildings to be converted into temporary shelters can be considered. For instance, in France, the government has partnered up with hotels to provide emergency accommodation for domestic abuse survivors. The viability of a similar partnership between hotels and government should be explored. The government should ensure that there are adequate safe spaces for victims of domestic violence. So it is now proven that the main issue connecting the pandemic to domestic violence is the lockdown orders, because one of the things we have come to understand is that domestic violence cases have a high tendency to rise whenever families spend time together, whether it is due to quarantine or working from home. Families are essentially stuck together in a relatively small area. This subsequently creates a petri dish for violence. It is much more difficult to escape when violence erupts, when they are forced to be in the same home with their perpetrators. I think that's all from me. Thank you so much, sir.